Okay, welcome everybody to our next session. We're just going to give it 30 seconds or so for people to jump across from our keynote, and then we'll get started. Okay, I think that's a good number of people moved across, so we'll get going. Welcome to our next session, Recession-proofing with Retention. Whether or not the economy that you're operating in has actually reached the point of genuine recession or not, there's no escaping the fact that we are most all of us seeing the impact of a downturn currently. Though it may not feel like it, there's great opportunity here to drive more revenue from your existing customers who already know and trust your brand. But don't take my word for it. I'm going to hand straight over to our COO, Ben Pointing, who's here to show us how to master loyalty to weather the economic downturn. Don't forget, you can share your own experiences of the cost of living crisis in the chat and ask Ben as many questions as you like using the Q&A function. Ben, over to you.
Thank you very much, Fee. So yes, welcome to our session looking at recession-proofing with retention. What we're going to do in this session is identify what we believe is the key differentiator that is going to separate the winners from the laggards in the current economic climate. And then the aim of the session is to leave you with 2 to 3 practical ideas that you can focus on today and hopefully give you a slightly clearer pathway to how you become one of the winners rather than a laggard. So whilst we may technically not be in a global recession, it sure feels like we are. We at LoyaltyLion speak with hundreds of prospects monthly across dozens of industries. And for the last 6 to 9 months, those prospects have been reporting more cancelled subscriptions, dropping repeat purchase rates, and increased time between purchases. Now, there's nothing new about economic cycles. There will likely always be ups and downs, but e-commerce, as a relatively young field of commerce, doesn't have a huge depth of experience to call upon when it comes to sustained global recessionary headwinds. And these headwinds are compounded by the fact that the levels of competition in e-commerce are ever increasing. In the last global economic recession of 2008, Amazon had not long broken out of selling CDs and books, and Shopify was in its infancy. Whereas today, Amazon is processing something like 300 million orders per day, an absolutely crazy number. And Shopify has hundreds of thousands of businesses actively using them on a daily basis. So whilst we hope and expect that inflationary issues will start to fade towards the end of this year, the competitive threat isn't going to go away. The competitive nature of e-commerce is going to grow exponentially in the coming years. And the winners will be those who start planning for that future today, despite the current economic headwinds. So what does all of this mean at a merchant level? Increased competition means it's now more expensive to acquire new customers. It's also become harder to retain those customers. There's more competition, meaning there's more special offers out there to entice your customers away. And those economic headwinds are making things worse because your customers may not have the cash on hand to actually come back and repeat purchases as frequently as they once did. And finally, with so many e-commerce stores out there, it's increasingly difficult to find that unique point of differentiation that makes your brand stand out to both your new customers and your existing ones. Now, this mix of economic headwinds on the one hand and increasing competitive threat on the other might be newish to e-commerce, but they're not new to the offline economy. So we're going to take a look at some of the winners and the laggards from the worlds of bricks and mortar and see what lessons we can learn and then apply to e-commerce. So we're going to start with the story of a winner that we've all heard about and probably had some interaction with, and that's going to be the story of Starbucks. So in 2008, take you back in time, Starbucks were close to failure. Their share price was down to $4 or approximately $4 a share, down from $20 just 2 years earlier. The reasons being that the financial crisis was reducing discretionary spend, and other coffee providers like McDonald's had improved their coffee products and was selling them at cheaper prices. As a result, Starbucks was forced to close hundreds of stores, fire thousands of employees, and it really could have been game over for Starbucks. So, hemorrhaging market share, Starbucks turned to a simple idea, and that was to gather feedback from their existing customers. They launched a campaign called My Starbucks Idea, which was an online portal where customers could create profiles and contribute ideas of what they wanted to experience from the Starbucks experience. And between 2008 and 2013, when this particular project was running, hundreds of thousands of ideas were submitted to the portal and about 300 were actioned. And Starbucks saw things like new flavors of coffee, the introduction of birthday treats, but also the introduction of free Wi-Fi, all from these ideas. And what Starbucks did was they gave customers a way to feel connected to the brand. These loyal customers then became advocates to attract new customers, which then started a virtuous circle of more customers becoming loyal customers who then submitted their ideas to Starbucks. And today, despite increased competition within the coffee space, Starbucks share price sits at about $100, so up from that $4 in 2008. So a really strong success story off the back of a loyal customer community. Now let's turn to the story of a laggard, because clearly not everyone is going to successfully adapt to a changing environment. Historically, Gap has been known as a retailer with a strong identity, a standout, colorful product range. It was known as a place where you could buy comfortable fashion for a reasonable price. However, today, retail experts have referred to it as a brand with no clear point of difference. And this is reflected in their share price, which has dropped from sort of $35 at its peak to around about $10 today. Now, those of you who follow Gap closely might argue that the inclusion of Kanye was a differentiator. Gap stock price certainly increased on the back of their collaboration with Kanye. But what has become clear since Gap and Kanye parted company is that Gap didn't have a loyal customer base of its own. Their customer base was imported with Kanye, and when he left, that same base largely left with him. The lesson here being that an imported loyal customer base works at like a tactical level, but over the long term, you're strategically exposed and need your own defined customer base in order to succeed. And this brings us on to what I think is going to be our fundamental belief about what is going to separate the winners from the laggards in the face of the current economic headwinds, which are likely to continue until towards the end of the year, and ever increasing competition within the e-commerce space. The key word here is sustainable differentiator to success is going to be building a large enough loyal customer community that you own, or as we at LoyaltyLion call them, insiders. The size of this insider community, we argue, will be one of the best predictors of your future growth potential, as without this community of insiders, you'll be constantly restrained on customer acquisition by high costs and competitor action. Put simply, without a strong insider community, you likely won't have a sustainable growth model. And why are these insiders so important? The maths is really quite simple. Looking at all of the LoyaltyLion data from tens of thousands of customers that use us, we can see that members of loyalty programs spend 40% more annually than non-members, and they shop with you for a longer period of time. So over a 12-month period, they spend 40% more, and they shop with you for multiple years. In a world of increasing competition, rising acquisition costs, the winners are going to be those who can successfully convert enough one-time shoppers into loyal customers. The laggards, on the other hand, will be those having to constantly pay to acquire new customers and fail to take advantage of the supercharged powers that insiders bring to your business. The main question then is how to turn customers from one-time shoppers into insiders. We want to move our guest checkout customers, who we can see over here, and we want to convert them over to this insider bucket over here. And we want to do this because this bucket accounts for about 50% of your profits. What we suggest that you do is examine every stage of your customer journey and ask yourself, how could we optimize each step along this journey so that you're more likely to build a community of insiders in the future. And this step-by-step approach is necessary because it's unlikely that you'll be able to build an insider community with a single big bang idea. Instead, it will be done incrementally. At one stage, you might gather some customer information that will later allow you to personalize some comms. At another stage, you might offer a customer the opportunity to join a loyalty program, hopefully LoyaltyLion. And at a third stage, you might give customers the opportunity to support a social cause that your brand is passionate about. The important thing to do here, and the important takeaway, is to map out each and every step that a customer takes with your brand and optimize those steps so that you're able to build and take advantage of your insider community. So we know that the winners will likely be those who can generate a large enough pool of insiders, and we know the laggards will be those who are predominantly reliant on attracting new customers all of the time. We know that to generate this insider community, you need to take your one-time customers and turn them into repeat purchase customers before finally turning them into loyal customers or insiders. So we're going to spend the last couple of minutes just looking at tactics that will support the process. And the first tactic is to make sure that you have integrated your tech stack. What does this mean? It means you need to make sure that your loyalty system is connected to your messaging and CRM services in such a way that you can consistently and easily use the right data at the right time. Now, it's an easy thing to say, but why does it even matter? And the key reason this integrated tech stack matters is because you are going to use this integrated tech stack to deliver customized comms to your customers. Personalized messages significantly improve the probability of converting one-time customers into loyal and repeat customers. And for example, from our data, we can see that personalized emails and SMS messages have a 20x click-through rate higher than just like your regular generic marketing comms because of that personalized and tailored information that's inside. And you can get really inventive about how you go about doing this. One of our favorite brands on Shopify, Edgard & Cooper, incentivize their customers with loyalty points for filling out their pet profile. In exchange, the brand gets zero-party data. So I think in this particular case, they get like the pet's breed and activity levels. And what they do with that information is personalize the experience with better product recommendations. The second thing we believe you need to do in order to build that insider community is to align with your customers emotionally. To give just one example of a customer of ours that has done this extremely well, Astrid and Miu have a silver recycling program where merchants get 1,000 points for recycling their unwanted jewelry. As a result of this, customers are then more likely to engage with the loyalty program and participate in the initiative, knowing that they're doing something good for the environment, and the brand also gets more information as a result. Other examples we've seen are brands allowing customers to spend their loyalty points on planting trees or donating to ocean cleanup projects. So whatever your customers care about, hone in on this. Finally, you should be rewarding your customers for acting as advocates on your behalf. Again, this was a clear lesson from the Starbucks example that we covered at the beginning. One way to do this is to reward your customers with loyalty points for referring others to your brand. They can then spend these points on rewards like free gifts or exclusive experiences. In the example on screen, Nude sends its community emails about the happy plan, and in this happy plan, both the referee and the referrer benefit from 10 and 20% off respectively. And we've got another example on screen actually from Mukti Organics, and they use pop-ups really effectively to utilize and promote their refer a friend scheme. We're coming up on time, so I'll just quickly conclude. It is our belief that the winners in e-commerce will be those brands that are able to build large insider communities. The size of your insider community will be an excellent predictor of your future growth potential. And in order to build this insider community, we suggest that you do three things. One, integrate your tech stack so you can send those personalized messages. Two, seek ways to align with your customers emotionally. And three, reward advocacy. I think with that, we might be at time. So I am going to hand over to Fee for any questions.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ben. I always knew you were an economist at heart. I think we do actually have time for just one question. Somebody here has asked anonymously, but what would you say the most notable difference between the situation that retailers find themselves in today with the cost of living crisis is versus what happened in e-commerce during the pandemic?
I think looking at LoyaltyLion data, we can see at least two main differences. Going back to the pandemic, and I know a lot of people don't want to go back to that time, but there were some clear winners and there were some clear losers. The winners were those new essentials. I, like everybody else, needed a yoga mat at home, and those sorts of companies did very well. And the clear laggards who, through no fault of their own, really struggled. For example, your suit companies, etc. What we're seeing in the current economic climate is a less obvious bifurcation between the winners and the losers. It's not necessarily based on your industry vertical. It's now based on, well, actually, how strong your insider community is, and that's what's separating the winners from the losers. The other piece is, as hard as the pandemic was for many people, there were a large number of people who were able to save up considerable sums of money and had disposable income. And what we're now seeing and hearing from our end customers as well is, with life returning to normal and their normal spending habits resuming, and then inflationary pressures on top of that, people have significantly less disposable income than they did during the pandemic. So those are the two changes that immediately spring to mind. It's more equal flattening across all industries, and there is less disposable income to go around. I think the answer to both is focus on that insider community.
Fantastic. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Ben. And what I take away from that is I should have sold one of my 3 yoga mats back then, and maybe I will consider selling it on YouTube now. Fantastic. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for. Ben, thank you so much for joining us as a speaker today. Now I must ask you all to head back to the agenda. You'll see a big red flashing light at the top of your screens, and meet us in our next session, which is a roundtable with Recharge, Akendo and ShipBob, where we'll be talking through how to shape your post-purchase experience. Don't forget, if you're having any trouble navigating between sessions, you can reach out to us at marketing@LoyaltyLion.com. Thank you so much again, Ben, and we will see you in the next session.
Thank you.